There are a ton of WWE and wrestling icebergs out there. So in this video, I wanted to take 25 of the biggest ones and explain them to you if you don't want to watch all the 1 hour long iceberg videos out there. So let's start it off immediately at the tip of the iceberg. The mass transit incident. This refers to an incident that happened in ECW on November 23rd. A wrestler that was supposed to be on the show didn't show up. So Eric Koulas approached Paul Heyman and told him that he is a 21-year-old trained wrestler going by the name Mass Transit and that he could sub in. However, all of that was untrue, as he was actually 17 and not trained at all. During the match, he would ask New Jack to get him color, which Jack, an infamous white boy hater, would happily do, but it might have been too much because Mass Transit would bleed all over the place calling for his father. He would then be taken to a hospital and would fortunately live. This event would have massive ramifications on ECW. Montreal Screwjob was a work. The Montreal Screwjob is one of the most infamous stories surrounding wrestling ever. It's a story of a betrayal of Bret Hart that I am sure all of you have heard of. And if you somehow haven't, I have a video on my other channel covering the entire situation. The reason there are people that believe it was a work is because it all feels a little bit too perfect. It helped Bret become a martyr with his move to WCW. It made Shawn the biggest heel in the world and helped McMahon usher in the Attitude Era. Curtain call. The curtain call is referred to today as the day that kayfabe died. In 1996, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash were leaving the company and their real-life friends Shawn Michaels and Triple H would say goodbye to them in the ring. The problem was that Ramon and Michaels were baby faces while Triple H and Nash were heels. So the crowd had no idea what was going on. And with the technology advancements of cameras and the internet, the clip that was filmed would be shared around, confirming once and for all that wrestling is just a bunch of pre-written stories. AJ Styles believes the earth is flat. This one is kind of true. AJ Styles has made some comments about the fact that there is some intriguing evidence that the earth is flat and how he believes that some NASA photos look weird, but he never explicitly said that the earth is flat. There were two Ultimate Warriors. The Ultimate Warrior was one of the biggest stars of the WWF in the late 80s and early 90s, and he was known for leaving the company every so often. In 1992, he returned looking much leaner and having shorter hair, leading many fans to believe that the original Ultimate Warrior had died and someone had replaced him. This has, however, been denied over and over by everyone involved. And now we dive into the shallow waters. Chris Benoit Wikipedia. Chris Benoit was a WWE wrestler who committed the horrifying act of murdering his wife and son as well as himself. This specific phrase refers to his Wikipedia page being edited to say that Benoit had missed a WWE event due to the death of his wife, despite not even the police having discovered any of this. Tiger Mask breaks kayfabe. Tiger Mask was a wrestler in the Japanese pro wrestling circuit, who after retiring would go on to publicly speak out against some of the people in the business, as well as publicly revealing that all of the matches were predetermined. There were two Kanes. This does not refer to the bad storyline with Luke Gallows. Instead, this refers to the idea that there were two people playing the Kane character in the 90s due to the inconsistencies in his build and height. Some people thought that Glenn Jacobs would sometimes just be replaced under the mask when he couldn't be there, while others believed that there was someone else playing the character for a few months until Kane took over. Mist variants. This entry refers to the mist often used by Japanese wrestlers and to what each color of the mist represents. Green represents temporary blindness. Red is supposed to be corrosive to the skin. Black is supposed to permanently blind you. Blue causes paralysis and yellow causes hallucinations or nausea. All of this is more of a myth rather than any actual rules. What does CM stand for? For years, fans have been wondering what the CM in CM Punk stands for. In his early days backyard wrestling, he was a part of a tag team called Chick Magnets. So once he became a single star, he paid homage to it by using it in his name. However, through the years, he would also give random explanations such as Charles Montgomery, Cookie Monster, Chicago Maid, and Crooked Moonsault. We are now at the midway point of the iceberg. The Dusty Rhodes envelope. During his time as a booker in Jim Crockett Promotions, Dusty would sometimes use the power of money inside a little envelope as a way to make things go his way. After some time, the phrase became synonymous with backstage politicking and favoritism. The Undertaker predicted Eddie Guerrero's death. During Undertaker's and Eddie's feud in the early 2000s, Undertaker would often speak about how Eddie's time is near and how the end is on the horizon, leading some fans to believe the Undertaker really had some insight. However, this is just the way the dead man spoke, so no. B1 has been deleted fan sign SmackDown 2003. This refers to a fan sign that appeared on an episode of SmackDown in 2003 that read B1 has been deleted. And the sign refers to Matt Hardy, who was just done with his first version of his persona. Where this becomes eerie is that years and years later, Matt would become famous for the phrase delete, making the sign look prophetic in a way. Goldust wanted breast implants. At one point in WWE's Attitude Era / early Ruthless Aggression era, Goldust wanted to take his bizarre, gender-bending character even further. He reportedly pitched to Vince McMahon the idea of getting actual breast implants to commit fully to the androgynous gimmick. According to interviews Dustin later gave, he was serious about this idea. He thought it would make the character unforgettable and controversial. Vince supposedly told him absolutely not and shot it down immediately. Samoa Joe was abducted by ninjas. In TNA during 2009, Samoa Joe was feuding with the Main Event Mafia, but out of nowhere he was abducted by a group of masked ninjas backstage during an episode of Impact. They literally jumped him, threw him into a van and drove off. And the storyline was never properly explained or finished. When Joe returned weeks later, he had a new, more violent Nation of Violence persona, complete with tribal face paint and knives. But no explanation was ever given for who the ninjas were or why they kidnapped him. We are now at the stage where you can see the last glimpses of light. The Invisible Family. This mainly refers to Invisible Man and Invisible Stan, two fictional, unseen wrestlers created as a part of independent wrestling's bizarre comedy lore. The Invisible Man is just an invisible wrestler. The referee and the audience would sell his moves as if someone was actually there. Later, his brother, Invisible Stan, was introduced, leading to a completely serious Invisible Man vs Invisible Stan match at Joey Janela's Spring Break 3. Referee Bryce Remsburg even called it like a real emotional feud between siblings. The match became legendary because, despite having no visible wrestlers, the storytelling, crowd reactions, and commentary made it weirdly compelling, like a surreal piece of performance art. So the Invisible Wrestling family is basically this lineage of unseen wrestlers, the Yakuza. In Japan, the Yakuza had a major presence in entertainment industries, and wrestling wasn't an exception. There have been well-documented cases of Yakuza involvement with major promotions like New Japan Pro Wrestling and All Japan Pro Wrestling, particularly in event security, financing, and territorial control. And even Antonio Inoki, founder of New Japan Pro Wrestling, reportedly had dealings with the Yakuza-connected figures to fund shows and secure venues in the early days. Molly Holly in a cult. After leaving WWE in 2005, Molly Holly, real name Nora Greenwald, largely disappeared from the public eye for a while. She became deeply involved in Christian missionary work, volunteering with churches and doing humanitarian trips. Some fans, not understanding the nature of her religious work, started spreading rumors that she had joined a cult, confusing her faith-based volunteerism with something darker. In reality, there's zero truth to the cult claim. The real La Parka. In the 1990s, Triple A had a character in its roster going by the name of La Parka. However, in 1996, Adolfo Tapia, who was playing the original La Parka, was leaving Triple A, and since Triple A owned the rights to the name, they would just replace him with Jesus Alfonso Escoboza, who would carry on the gimmick. And this would start a feud that would last for decades, with Adolfo Tapia calling himself La Original y Auténtica Parka, meaning the original parka. Sorry for every single pronunciation there. I'm not Spanish. I've never spoke Spanish. I've never even spoke to a Spanish person, so sorry. Bret Hart's been having sunny days. This entry refers to a segment on Monday Night Raw between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, where Shawn Michaels would say, "You've been having some sunny days, my friend." To the audience, nothing seemed off, but backstage, everyone knew he was essentially accusing Bret of sleeping with Tammy Sunny Sitch. This would result in a physical altercation backstage, and both of them would go on to deny those rumors. Welcome to the deep darkness. Savage slept with Stephanie McMahon. Ever since 1994, there has been a long-standing internet rumor that the Macho Man Randy Savage had slept with a teenage Stephanie McMahon, and once Vince found out, he blacklisted him from the company, forcing him to move to WCW. This is also because he would stay blacklisted from the company until his death, as he would never be mentioned or honored for his legacy. However, after his death, he would be inducted into the Hall of Fame. We also have to acknowledge the fact that no one involved ever said anything about this rumor. New Japan Pro Wrestling Dojo death. Young trainees in the New Japan Pro Wrestling system go through rigorous training, and that was even more true in the 1980s and 1990s. During this time, they would often beat students up and train them to complete exhaustion, and unfortunately, that came at a cost. In the early 1980s, a young man would die during a training session, likely due to exhaustion. New Japan Pro Wrestling would never mention or acknowledge this, which was typical of Japanese media at the time. Sid Justice/Arn Anderson incident. This is one of the worst altercations in the newer history of wrestling. The story goes that the two were arguing about the successes of WWF and WCW, and that after a lot of alcohol got involved, Sid would take a pair of scissors and would stab Arn multiple times in the stomach and chest, and Arn would manage to fight back and would do the same. Both of them were hospitalized and survived, and Sid was immediately fired by WCW. Tommy Dreamer planned to kill Paul Heyman. This one was confirmed by Tommy Dreamer himself in many interviews. Once the ECW collapsed in 2001, Tommy was incredibly depressed since he had given all of himself to the company. However, one day in 2005, he would see Paul Heyman on commentary on an episode of Monday Night Raw, which felt like a personal betrayal. He then planned to murder him at WrestleMania X7, but thankfully, family and friends talked him out of it. I still remember note. After The Undertaker's Sarah Stalker storyline in 2001, WWE teased a new mystery in 2002. On one episode of SmackDown, The Undertaker found a note on his motorcycle that simply read, "I still remember." There was no immediate explanation for who left it or what it meant. It implied someone from his past was coming for revenge. A few weeks later, it was revealed that the person behind it was David Flair, Ric Flair's son, who blamed Taker for attacking his father before WrestleMania X8. The note was meant as his cryptic calling card. However, the reveal was sloppy and quickly dropped, leading fans to mythologize it. Over time, the "I still remember" note became one of those eerie, lost lore WWE moments, often remembered as something far more ominous than it really was, with some fans even falsely recalling it tied to Katie Vick or Undertaker's past victims. I hope everybody enjoyed this video. Please make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe if you did. I'm new around here. I'm trying to make my dreams come true. So doing any or all of those would really help me achieve my dream. Also, if you really enjoyed it, please make sure to check out some of my other stuff. Thank you.